Mike's Daily Podcast.
FF episode 1325-1325. I am Mike Matthews, broadcasting from Cafe Anyway, located somewhere in Podcastro Valley, Mont. Today, John Deere the engineer, Floyd the Floorman, Chely Shoehart, plus the interesting news segment called The Bottom of the Charts. We'll look at the bottom of the news charts, and see what's going on with stuff that you may not have heard about so much in the news.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
And I had a nice little thing wake me up in the morning at 1.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
It was another rainstorm. Wait, that's not what my Google weather app said. All of a sudden, there's rain falling on my head and on the outside awning roof thing in my backyard. And if that gets full of rain and it doesn't drain, it's hard, because what happens, the water falls all in the patio and then that leaks
Mike's Daily Podcast
into my basement. It's so complicated, my house. It's like a relationship
Mike's
that
Daily
has lasted many years
Podcast
and has many layers, and you go, wow, if you pull this little string, that all comes apart and the relationship ends. The end. Hey, another reason why I'm single. You know, what happened was, when you pulled that happened. What? Did that make any sense? I don't think so.
Say what?
Look who just walked in.
Hello, Mike Matthews. It's Chely Shoehart, the jump supervisor. Why are you so down on relationships? I like relationships. I'm in a relationship with Bob.
And that's going well?
Mike Matthews, he's wonderful and super and smart. And he likes to talk about money.
Oh, really? What's he say about money?
That he doesn't like to spend it.
Oh, he's a cheap guy. Look who else walked in. Oh, Mike, this is Floyd the Floorman. And this is John Deere, the engineer. Mike, I think that maybe someday I would like to meet Ted Allen. Ted Allen, oh no! Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. And also on Chopped, I was talking to Marco. Not Polo, but Marco. Ha ha ha, old joke. And he used to do a segment on this show called
The Marco Minute. The Marco Minute.
But we haven't done that in a long, long time. Maybe some morning we will. But he and I were talking about Chop.
And here's today's podcast picture.
And how they have so many cool tools on that show. And Ted Allen has really parlayed the Queer Eye for the Straight Guy show into Chopped, and has made a nice Food Network career. And we were discussing how the judges upset us, and how I once went to an Aaron Sanchez, who's one of the judges' restaurant. Actually, it was a House of Blues in Orlando, in the city Disney, or whatever they call it, downtown Disney thing they got there. That's free to go to. I went there with my mom a couple years back. I've posted podcast pictures of that, but that's not a podcast picture of that. This is a podcast picture of Concord. Concord. In the East Bay. Not too far from the far East Bay. The Contra Costa part of our Bay Area. And they have this cool little waterfalls is at night. And there's a nice little beer place there that they actually do a podcast from. A beer podcast. And they got a little studio there that you can see through the glass. They went all out. You know, in the world of podcasting, that's a thing you should do if you have a company. Set up a little podcasting booth with the glass. People will know you mean business when they walk into your lobby. Have that glass right there. This is expensive, of course, what I'm saying. It's no cheap endeavor. But you set up your little podcasting booth, put the soundproofing on the walls that look like egg crates. People will see what you mean. And then do your podcast. This is the biggest problem, though, that people have, podcasters have, is they can't do it regularly. Like, I do this just about every day. Thus the name Mike's Daily Podcast. and I stick to it. And that's impressive. That's the only impressive thing about this show, but it's impressive. And a lot of podcasters don't. You look up a lot of podcasts. Unfortunately, if there's a chart for podcasts, mine is way at the bottom. There are podcasts above me that died long ago. The most recent episode is from 2012. Yet here I go. I keep going. But I would like to mention something else interesting about podcasts. Something that I got from Apple yesterday. Apple is changing. No, it used to be the iTunes Store. What did they used to call it? They've changed the name. iTunes Podcasts is now Apple Podcasts. That's the new name. And they've got a new badge for it. So, like they say, if you're going to have a link to us over at Apple on iTunes, make sure you got our new badge. So they sent that to me, an email about that. And they told me to tell you could direct listeners to your show by saying, listen to brackets your show on Apple Podcasts, or if you love this episode, share it with a friend on Apple Podcasts. Give us a bunch of free publicity at Apple Podcasts, which you should do because that's the only way people are going to hear your show. On the iTunes Store app. I don't know, they're very confusing, but they're changing it to Apple Podcasts apparently. Oh, and when I tweet my podcast, I'm supposed to put at Apple Podcasts. And then they'll share it with all their people. And then I'll maybe move up that chart that I was speaking about earlier. Who knows? Who cares? But I was woken up by the rain this morning. And I had to actually go outside at 1 o'clock in the morning and clean out my gutters for this awning. Because the water was just seeping through the awning. And then when the water gets too close to the house, it leaks down in the basement. So I was cleaning that all out. My dog, Basil the Boxer, walked over, took one look at what I was doing and said, ugh, and went back to sleep. So I did that for about a half hour and then went back to sleep at 1:30. So I'm a little bit groggy this morning, but hey, we're going to power through it. We're going to keep walking because I got to get my steps in. Have you heard that over and over again? People with their little, what do you call them, Fitbits and other tracking devices. And they get points, like at my job. They took our jobs. At my job, they
took our job.
They took our jobs.
They took our job. They took your job. They took your job.
At my job, you get points for the things that how far you walk. So, but I'm hearing more and more people say, I got to get my steps in. I got to walk so I can get my steps in. So I can get my steps. So that's a thing you're going to hear more and more in this world. Okay, maybe not. Some people are like, I don't want them to know how far I'm walking. I don't want them to know where I'm walking, because you turn on this and that on your phone. They know where you are, what you're doing at all times. They're taking that information away from you. But I'm actually, even here in the Bay Area, I'm noticing a lot of lackadaisicalness about it. People don't really care so much that they're being tracked. At any rate, go to MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. All I know when you go to that website is that someone went to that website. I don't know where you are. I mean, maybe those statistics are somewhere. I just don't know where they are. I haven't looked that far into my web page stuff, analytics, and whatnot. But if I were smart, I would. But I don't. So be happy that you can go to my website and not be tracked. MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. And there are all the past podcast pictures, like today's, from Concord and the waterfalls. And I think in the background there is that beer place I can't remember the name of. Calpine! No, that's not the name of this. That's the name of the stupid people that were trying to sell me. I was just trying to get home and take a nap after the crazy tax day I was having on Tuesday. And the stupid kid was not letting me go. And I know I'm not letting this go, this topic, but it was called Calpine. I couldn't think of the name of their company. Hey, we're from California. And then I did a little research. And by little research, I mean a little research. All I went was to the PG&E website where they list all the people that you can get your gas from. And Calpine, not from California, as the name would suggest. They're like from... Oh, what the hell was it? I don't have it up right now. But they were not from California, so liars. At any rate, MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. Go there and buy whatever it is you're going to buy on Amazon through that. Perhaps you're going to buy some kind of fitness tracker deal. If you were, I hope you get your steps in. And you can also donate and get a special personalized MP3 for thee from all the Cafe Anyway characters there, too. Maybe you want to buy a Ted Allen thing. A Food Network thing. I can only watch so much Food Network, though. I do not like the staged reality crap. Where you sit there and you go, okay, they're following the same formula for every reality TV show that I've seen, where they try and induce this competition that's ridiculous, and we know they only do this competition because, well, it gets ratings, so it works. But it shouldn't work. We should be smarter than that. We shouldn't watch shows like that. But we do because there's nothing else on. But we shouldn't. We should go to Netflix and watch Grand Designs, which is... I started watching it and almost turned it off last night. I'm thinking, oh, this is a show that follows somebody trying to make some really out-of-the-ordinary house. And it's just going to be one of these shows like you see on HGTV where they just follow them and there's drama. Oh, no, we can't get the sewage line connected. Oh, no. And then everything gets resolved after the commercial. Well, no, it was totally not like that. It was a fascinating show. It was following a couple in some small town in England, I think in Olden, England. And they were trying to take an old theater that was dilapidated and falling apart. They bought it for £90,000. And they wanted to keep the facade of the theater, the front, but turn the whole back end into a house. And they did. They turned it into a concrete house. And they were talking about the implications of having a concrete, living in a concrete building and pouring the concrete and all that. And it was fascinating. And it wasn't drama. It wasn't forced drama. And it was instructive. And the host, who kind of reminded me of the late Douglas Adams, I can't remember his name, but he took us all through these different other concrete houses and showed us examples, and it was great. Check it out, Grand Designs, which is also a Rush song from the album Power Windows, which I thoroughly enjoyed that album, even though everybody's like, no, that's not real Rush. Real Rush is Moving Pictures in 2112. No, Power Windows, my friend. Power Windows. It's all synthesizers and produced up to the wazoo. And I had a purist musician friend tell me, and he said it absolutely right on the nail. He said, that album is ear candy. But there's a great song about designing things and engineering things, like you are an engineer, John Deere the engineer, that you probably enjoy Grand Designs. Yeah, that's a pretty good song. I like it. H to Z, different to grind. Yeah, it's a great song. Okay. MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com is not where you can hear that song, but you can catch all the past podcasts and interviews I've done. And let's get to the segment now, the bottom of the charts.
Oh my God! The bottom of the charts.
The bottom of the news barrel, my friend. Let's look. Oh, that's a good name for a segment. So I was mentioning Facebook yesterday, and then I jumped out of that story and their F8 developers conference. But I did want to point out, though, they're looking into augmented reality. Mark Zuckerberg, he kicked off the Tuesday conference by emphasizing that the camera would play a larger role in how people interact with friends on social network. And Facebook is encouraging developers to build new augmented reality camera effects for Facebook, which will be launching in a closed beta starting immediately. Dozens of augmented reality-powered effects like masks and frames will be available within the Facebook app's camera. Based on the company's demo, these photo effects will be able to move and adjust based on what the camera is pointing at. Users could fill a photo of a room with candy, for example. or put swimming sharks around an image of a cereal bowl. And Facebook says its AR platform will eventually make it possible to leave a virtual note for a friend at a restaurant or create artwork that appears on a building wall when looking at it with your phone. And the ultimate goal, Zuckerberg said, the tech will eventually be implemented in glasses. So we'll all have to wear glasses and look like nerds, just like what Google was trying to do. Oh, that went so well, didn't it? The Google Glass thing. Speaking of tech, HTC, for those of you who could give a crap about Apple and Apple Podcasts and iTunes and everything, and GarageBand you can get now for free on any Apple product you have and make your own podcast, which I highly suggest you do. HTC has confirmed rumors that its upcoming new smartphone, the U, will be squeezable. Squeeze! That doesn't mean the Taiwanese firm is about to ship a rubber device. Rather, the phone's metal frame will include embedded sensors that enable its owner to control settings and make gestures by squeezing its sides or swiping up and down on them. In other words, the smartphone controls will no longer be limited to just the screen. The whole phone, as a matter of fact, will be usable to do things with it, to do what you want. It's opening up so many possibilities. HTC will hope that the U and its quirks make a larger dent than the U Ultra, which has already gotten a 20% price cut to increase its appeal despite going on sale just weeks ago. Now, I wanted to talk about 420, the pot day. The origins of the date and the term, and I'm going to call this show Pot because we're also talking about cooking on today's show and Chopped and whatnot, so it'll totally get people listening to this show. The origins of the date, and I'll no longer be at the bottom of that chart I was talking about earlier. The origins of the date 420 and the term 420 generally were long murky. Some claim it referred to a police code for marijuana possession, or that it arose from Bob Dylan's Rainy Day Women number 12 and 35 with its refrain of everybody must get stoned, 420 being the product of 12 times 35. Ha-ha! But in recent years, a consensus has emerged around the most credible explanation that it started with a group of bell-bottom buddies from a place not too far where I'm broadcasting from now, podcasting from Podcastro Valleymont. North of here, about an hour, is San Rafael High School. And a group of bell-bottom buddies called themselves the Waldos. A friend's brother was afraid of getting busted for a patch of cannabis he was growing in the woods at Point Reyes. So he drew a map and gave the teens permission to harvest the crop. During the fall of 1971 at 4:20 p.m., just after classes and football practice. Wow, they had classes late then. In my high school, we got out at 2:20. But 4:20 was when they got out. Just after classes, the group would meet up at the school's statue of chemist Louis Pasteur. Pasteurization came from Louis Pasteur. Smoke a joint and head out to search for the weed patch. They never did find it, but their private lexicon, 420 Louis, and later just 420, would take on a life of its own. The Waldos saved postmarked letters and other artifacts from the 1970s referencing 420, which they now keep in a bank vault. And when the Oxford English Dictionary added the term last month, it cited some of those documents as the entry's earliest recorded uses. And that is all from AP, so you know it's true. Now, I'd like to wrap up our segment of the bottom of the charts with a couple of annoying people. First off, the white supremacist Richard Spencer. He spoke at a crowded auditorium at Auburn University in Alabama. War Eagle. Oh, Auburn. Why? Because we're in Alabama. They did this on Tuesday after a federal judge blocked the school from banning his appearance. Only a few chairs were empty in the more than 400-seat room as Spencer and other speakers railed against ethnicity and racial diversity, liberals, the media, and more. They say they want to promote white pride. He previously made news by addressing a far-right gathering where audience members gave a Nazi salute. opponents engaged in shouting. Oh, and supporters engaged in shouting marches beforehand. 3 people were arrested. Video posted online shows 2 men scuffling outside the building where Spencer spoke. Judge cleared the way for Spencer's speech. Spencer, didn't he get punched? He should have. And finally, a more progressive campus. A campus that would not do what I just mentioned. Or try very hard not to, at least. Berkeley. University of California, Berkeley. Yesterday. Okay, so this story is not so much about Berkeley as it is about a skeleton wearing a blonde wig. Ann Coulter. She fired off an angry streak of tweets yesterday, vowing to speak as planned next week at the University of California, Berkeley, after campus officials called off the event for security concerns. I will be speaking next Thursday, she said, calling the move to cancel her planned event on April 27th a ban of free speech. Coulter was invited to speak at Berkeley by campus Republicans on the subject of illegal immigration. The event, she wrote a book about that. What a surprise. The event raised concerns of more violence at Berkeley, where masked rioters smashed windows, set fires, and shut down an appearance by former Breitbart News editor Milo Yiannopoulos in February. University officials sent the Berkeley College Republicans a letter Tuesday saying that officials and campus police had determined they could not ensure the safety of Coulter, audience members, or protesters expected at the event. So those college Republicans at Berkeley should be fined for any damage that happens when the stuff goes down. As we go outside a cafe anyway, we bring you Mike's Daily Podcast, somewhere at Podcaster Valley. I actually work for a radio station that in the first week I worked there, they got a call from Ann Coulter and the host of this one show to talk to her, and I was thinking the whole time, oh my God, this is about as close as I want to ever be to her. So that's the whole world in a nutshell, in a pot, if you will. Next show, it will be me talking like in a radio voice. No, I won't do that. I'll try not to anyway. Because that can be annoying. Because it's formula and it's forced. And who wants that forced drama? Next show, it will be the wonderful Benita, the Disgruntled Fiddle Player, and the Brewmaster.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. Email Mike now at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!